Hey, welcome to Planet Hex. I'm Andrew Hawnt. In my previous video, if you haven't seen it, I was talking all about Charles Band and the Full Moon Features movie studio that I'm such a big fan of and have been a fan of since the 90s, making sci-fi and horror movies that I've really enjoyed throughout the video rental era and beyond. Now, in that video, I talked about writing a full moon movie, well, a full moon style movie. I would love to write for Full Moon one day. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but I wanted to write something in the style of Full Moon, and I'm giving myself an extra layer of challenge. I'm going to do it in 7 days. So I've done the first session of that film today, and we are getting some progress made already. I'm at 10 pages. It's not too bad for a Sunday, but by next Sunday, at the time of recording, I will be giving you an update on the film, and I will hopefully have finished it. We're going to see. So there'll probably be another episode of Planet Hex before next Sunday that will be different to this, but this, I'm kicking off the challenge, and in 7 days I'm going to present to you what I've done, and whether I've finished it or not, whether I've got to the full-length feature film or not in 7 days, I'm going to have a go. This is going to be a lot of fun. So here, let's take a look at my first session today.
So why am I doing this? Why am I setting myself the task of writing a full-length feature film in only 7 days? Well, mainly it's because I have a story to tell, and that story has been on my mind for a long time. It's a plot I've had in my mind for ages, and I think this is a really good way to get it out of my head and onto the page. Granted, it's more than likely that this film will never be made by Full Moon or me or anyone else. It's outside of my skill set. I don't have the resources available to make it myself, because I've made The Demon and I on my own and written a bunch of stuff, but I don't have the funds or the resources or the skills, really, I don't think, to make it myself. So this is mainly just fun, and I want to write it in the style of a Full Moon movie. So what I mean by the style of a Full Moon Features movie is I want it to run about 80 to 85 minutes in length in total. I want it to have a very minimal cast, and I want it to have a few locations just to save on budget. So in my mind while I'm writing this with a focus on a film that would be low in budget to make, but I want it to still be a compelling story with a good 3-act structure, start, middle and finish, and I want it to all pay off in the end with lots of entertainment value. That's what I always got and still get out of the Full Moon movies. They're entertaining, they're not too long, there's generally a relatively small cast and a relatively small number of locations. So I'm giving myself, in this story, 4 main cast members. So there'll just be 4 cast members on screen, and there'll be a 5th character who's only ever heard as a voice. So that's it, yeah, 4 characters on screen and a 5th voice character. So that's my limitations in terms of who I can have supplying the dialogue and moving the story along. In terms of location, it will take place mainly in one large apartment. Now, several of their movies have been made in large apartment complexes, which I would imagine cuts down on the amount of locations needed and budget and travel and things like that, and that's fine. So I'm going to limit myself to one main location with a few external shots that could either be stock footage or shot originally in the surrounding streets. It's nothing too complicated, nothing too luxurious or extravagant in terms of where these things could be shot. Now, the other thing I want on there, I want a horror element, so it's definitely a horror movie, and I want a slight element of dark fantasy. So this is not like a slasher movie, it's more a supernatural movie with a fantasy element, so I'm going to put that in there too. Now, as you see on the screen, I'm only using OpenOffice to write this. I'm not using any sophisticated screenwriting software that formats it for me. And the main reason for that is because I enjoy formatting it. It helps me to, when I'm formatting the pages, so that we've got the interior and exterior, the who's talking, whether it's a VO, whether voiceover, whether they are off screen, whether there's a particular music cue that I think would be a good idea in there, that sort of thing. I like to format those myself because as I'm going on, it helps me to see what works and what doesn't, because as I'm formatting it, it just helps me to kind of edit it as I'm going along. Now, the main remit of this is I'm going to write the thing in 7 days. It's not going to be perfect within 7 days, as I already see from this video. There are some typos creeping into this, and that's fine. I'm going to go over it once the whole thing is done. But it's like NaNoWriMo this, where you write 50,000 words in 1 month. So for me, I'm going to write the entire movie's first draft in 7 days and then go back and give it a polish. Nothing too luxurious. I mean, this is mainly just for fun. This is for my own entertainment more than anything. But I want to see if I can recreate the magic of a full moon movie that I would rent in the video era. So, you know, something that you would think, oh, cool, the artwork on that box looks awesome, I will rent that. And then you will get your money's worth in terms of entertainment value. It won't hang around too long. It'll be under the 90-minute mark. I'm aiming for about 80 minutes. And it will give you some cool characters, a really cool situation, and a nice crazy ending. And that's generally what I got from the full moon movies. That's what I always got from those films, and what I hope I can recreate here. I've always enjoyed writing scripts. Now, I'm known as a comic book writer, so I've written lots of comic book scripts for the FemForce titles from AC Comics, and Violet Shadow, which is the superhero I created, and the Super Babes offshoot, as well as having prose fiction in the Judge Dredd magazine and Doctor Who Adventures. And all of that has taught me a great deal about pacing. Something else that was a really big influence on me in the early days of understanding how scripts work was a website called Drew's Scriptorama. I was on there pretty much every day for a long time in the late 90s when I was first getting started with my internet journey, and I loved that place. I would go through it and find all the scripts to my favourite films, some films that weren't such favourites, but mainly all my favourites. I found things like Highlander and The Crow and a bunch of other horror and fantasy and genre movies there that taught me so much about putting a script together in terms of how they are formatted, how to pace dialogue, the amount of words to use in each piece of dialogue. It was just a really interesting thing, a really interesting time for me. The other big thing for me that influenced the way I write and understand scripts was the Making Ghostbusters book, which my mum bought me when I was about 10 years old. That book changed my life. It had the full shooting script of the original Ghostbusters movie in it. So I see that I was sort of trained by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis from that script in how to put something together, and I've always really, really been grateful for that. Now, I've written the movie scripts, as I mentioned in my previous video, for Jess Cameron, and they were a ton of fun to do. Really, really exciting and challenging and fun. And they taught me a ton about pacing and dialogue and moving the story along without literally just having a big info dump. Now, this film that I'm writing here in this video is not going to be full of exposition. I'm going to try and move things along naturally. I'm going to try move things along through the dialogue and through the actions on screen without having giant info dumps about what's going on, because that, you know, it takes you out of it. It really does take you out of the action there. So, as you see here in the video, I am writing this in my kitchen. It's a Sunday afternoon, and the kids are on playing video games in the living room. My wife's relaxing, reading. I've done a bunch of jobs around the house, so I'm just sat down to write this. The cats keep invading around me, so I do keep getting distracted here and there, but that's just a fact of life. And, you know, I don't have an office space. I work from the kitchen table in my day job, and, you know, writing, everything I do has been from the kitchen table, even when I was doing music journalism, all the interviews and everything. You know, multi-millionaire rock stars across the planet interviewed from the glamour of my kitchen table. You know, if only they knew. So this is how I do it. You sit down and you write. This is the way it's done. When people ask me, how do you write so much? How do you manage to write these things? You know, I'd love to do that one day. I'd love to sit down and write something, but I just don't know how you do it. You do it by sitting down and writing it. That is literally the advice. That's where it begins and it ends. You sit down and you write the stuff that you want to write and create these things. Get these ideas out of your head. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to write an 80-minute movie with horror and fantasy elements, some cool characters, and I want to try and give it that full moon stamp of just the right level of kitsch, and just make it a fun genre movie. If anyone wants to make it after that, I'm all ears. Feel free. But mainly, I just want to see if I can do this within the 7-day remit. So there we go, that's the first session done. In 7 days, next Sunday, I'm going to post a video with the outcome of this to see how far I got.
So that was a little look at the first session I spent writing this new movie in the style of full moon features. I do hope you will join me again for the next update, well, when I hopefully will have finished it in a week. Thank you for checking out Planet Hex.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and validate my existence.